Dave, in my obsession to understand the nature of reality, a question I ask myself and I like to ask my friends is what exists? I mean, that sounds a silly thing, you know, all these chairs, desks, tea cups exist, but at its most fundamental categories, things that you could not reduce to something else, what are your categories?
Well, physics has gone through a considerable evolution on that question. It might have been hoped up until the middle of the 19th century or so that we could account for the world completely in terms of the motions of material particles, of sort of Newtonian material particles. Toward the end of the 19th century, with the development of Maxwellian electromagnetism, it became clear that that wasn't the case, and that the fundamental architecture of the world includes at least one other thing, namely fields. I would say at this point, we're hoping we can limit it to that.
That meaning particles and fields?
Particles and fields, but we'll have to see. There is an ongoing debate. You know, of course, the big thing that's happened in physics since the end of the 19th century that affects these debates a great deal is quantum mechanics, and there's a debate going on now about what the appropriate sort of ontology of quantum mechanics is, what we ought to read quantum mechanics as telling us fundamentally exists, and there are debates about that. So I would say at the moment, we're hoping we can get along with an ontology of particles and fields, but of course, you know, science develops and science changes, and science is full of surprises, and we'll have to see. Of course, other old questions are whether there are altogether different kinds of entities in the world, entities like God or mind or the good, or something like that. And I think that the physical project has been committed from the beginning to at least seeing to what extent we can get along without entities like that, exploring the extent to which we can get along with just recognizably physical fundamental entities like particles and fields. But exactly what it is to be a fundamental physical entity is itself an open question.
Okay, so let's take particles and fields, where we were at the very end of the 19th century.
Right.
Now you bring in quantum mechanics.
Yes.
Well, quantum mechanics sits below fields and particles in a sense, right?
In a sense, yes, but it asserts that, look, quantum mechanics was first read as asserting that particles do weird things, okay? That particles can be in situations where there's no fact of the matter about where they're located in space or something like that. And it was quite right to say, or that the world was made of these things which are sometimes particles and sometimes waves and so on. None of that was terribly helpful. None of that was terribly clear. If somebody says, please tell me straightforwardly what there is and what it does, okay? Which are the questions I take physics to be in the business of answering. There was so much confusion for so long about the foundations of quantum mechanics that it's astonishingly only now, 100 years after the theory's invention, that we're getting around in a serious way to trying to figure out what its basic ontology is.
Okay, so but I appreciate all that knowledge, but my question is still I haven't gotten.
What is there?
In other words, particles and waves you had, and then I said quantum mechanics is sitting below it. You weren't willing to say it that way.
No, yeah, that's right. I don't think that's the right way to put it. I think quantum mechanics is I don't think quantum mechanics exactly preserves the old categories of particles and fields. It looks to me, I think it looks to many people, like in order to fully understand what's going on with quantum mechanics, we're going to have to replace those categories by something altogether different.
So that's significant.
That's very significant. There is at the moment a big debate about what that is. If you want to ask me for my own opinion about that, or at least the attitude that looks the most promising to me at the moment, I think quantum mechanics paints a picture for us where the fundamental objects are fields, but fields not of the kind we're used to that fluctuate around in three-dimensional space or four-dimensional space-time, but in a much, much higher dimensional space than that. Okay, that is that what's usually called the wave function, which was once regarded as a sort of abstract description of quantum mechanical systems, is actually itself what the quantum mechanical systems are. It's this field fluctuating around in a very high dimensional space. It looks to me at the moment like the best bet is that that's what the world is.
And does that lead you to many world interpretation?
No, it doesn't lead me to many worlds interpretation. It does lead me to a very strange picture of the dimensionality of space. The dimensionality of space turns out to be much, much higher than we thought it was. But there are various different ways on the market now of making sense of quantum mechanics. I don't think we're at the point yet where the dust has settled and we know which one is right. There are some that look more promising to some people, others that look more promising to others.
Is quantum mechanics a candidate for the ultimate ground of being, so to speak, or must you certainly get below it, string theory or whatever, that has some other thing that from which quantum mechanics emerges?
No, string theory is just a version of quantum mechanics. There are basic principles of quantum mechanics, linearity of the equations of motion, representation by states in a Hilbert space, so on. These are common to string theory, as to all other theories everybody's entertaining now. Yes, so it's fair to say that at the moment, there aren't on the table any serious alternatives to or attempts to go deeper than quantum mechanics. Okay? String theory is just a version, a particular version of quantum mechanics.
How about things like abstract objects? It's not God.
Good.
It's not.
Good. No, that's right. I mean, like numbers, for example. So my attitude towards those would be, you get away with as few of them as you can get away with.
But if you get away with one, that changes your whole ontology.
If you get away with one, that changes the whole ontology, and there is a sort of vibrant program in metaphysics of nominalism that tries to get away without any. And there have been serious attempts by people like Hartree Field, say, to see how to reconstruct physics without having to logically quantify over numbers. That is, without having to commit yourself to the existence of numbers. Whether these projects will succeed and the degree to which they'll succeed remains an open question. Physics is hard, philosophy is hard.
Which way are you rooting?
My inclinations are to try to produce as concrete and mechanical a picture as possible.